Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to another movie review and time again, where first to do is my birthday review. Yep, which today is my birthday, so happy birthday to myself. So even give a little toast to myself as well. So for my birthday review that I'll be doing is a film that was released 20 years ago today on my birthday from 1997 during the summer, and that is this one I love to death. It's one of my all-time favorite action films. I grew up watching a lot as a kid, watched it a whole bunch on TV, and it is also one of my all-time favorite action films, and it is without doubt an action classic, one of the best ones of the '90s, especially. But it is Con Air. Oh, what can I say about Con Air? It's a fun, entertaining action film that I just love to death. It stars Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, and John Malkovich, and another great cast. And I felt I grew up with this film, watching it a whole bunch of times on TV, and it was ironically enough, a lot of times why I grew up watching that on TV was like more of the second half of the film, because most of the times, growing up on TV, wherever my mother was watching, and just it always happens when I get to that watching the film, it's always like on the second half of the film. That's why I love to remember the most about the film. It was the second half of the film, but I enjoyed I just enjoyed it regardless. This was a fun movie, and I was always without doubt my favorite film starring all three of these actors here: John Cusack, Nicolas Cage, and John Malkovich. It's always been the favorite film starring these three guys. I enjoy all three actors. And the film is directed by Simon West, which Simon West, this is the first film he directed. He did a great job. It's still his best film today, at least to me. Great job, great directing the film. After this, he directed The General's Daughter with John Travolta, and then he directed the first Lara Croft Tomb Raider film, which I like the first film. The sequel, not so much. That was one that Jan de Bont directed. And then he directed another bad horror remake, When a Stranger Calls. And then he directed The Mechanic with Jason Statham, which I did not like. And then Expendables 2, directed that film. That was a huge disappointment. Then he directed two of these direct-to-video films called Stolen with Nicolas Cage, and then one called Wild Card with Jason Statham. And then he's been he said he was supposed to direct another. He chose to direct a second remake of The Blob, which originally was going to be directed by Rob Zombie, but he was chosen to direct the second remake of The Blob. That I got no words to say about it. There's only one remake of The Blob, and that is I love, and that is the 1988 remake, the 1988 one. That is the remake. Did not need to remake it a second time, because if it did, it'll be a horribly bad CGI blob and lame deaths as well. Well, that film I'll get to. But I'll get to it next year, because that'll be 2018. That'll mark the 30th anniversary of the films from 1988. So I'll get to that again, but I'll save that for that. But Simon West, Expendables 2, then The Mechanic, then When a Stranger's Calls, General's Daughter, which I haven't seen in a long time, but I like the first Laura Craft film. But this is still this is his best film still. His first film, his best film. It's just loads of fun, lots of memorable things, dialogue, the action, even the humor, the dialogue is memorable. Love Nicolas Cage. John Malkovich, memorable villain. He's definitely like on my list of memorable action villains. One of them definitely being with Dennis Hopper in Speed as Howard Payne. So I have a list of action villains, memorable ones. He'll be on Cyrus the Virus, Grissom, and then Howard Payne from Speed. Definitely so. And Jerry Bruckheimer, his films, they was produced on. I enjoy Jerry Bruckheimer from Bad Boys 1 and 2, The Rock, Beverly Hills Cop. Deliver Us from Evil, which was 2014. That's a horror film that was made by Jerry Bruckheimer. I know the Pirates of the Caribbean films. I know that the first one, yeah, and this says for sequels went on though, but still, I mean the second Beverly Hills Cop film, then the third film sucked basically, but but overall, I enjoy Jerry Bruckheimer, and definitely one of my. I think I'll put this as my favorite film from Jerry Bruckheimer because yeah, I grew up with the film so much, you know. Yeah, I always say it's my favorite film from Jerry Bruckheimer. But even though I enjoy I love The Rock, that's another film with Nicolas Cage that I think he's great in as well. And also in the same month, this came out in June. Like this became at the beginning of June with Nicolas Cage, and at the end of the month of June, he started Face Off. Now, if I were to pick, I like Face Off though, but I would give Nicolas Cage's performance more to this than Face Off because his Face Off, you know, I know it's like when he's the villain, and then when it's Travolta, you know, playing Nicolas Cage, you know, he was just so over the top, especially when he was doing this, you know, this is probably I couldn't take him seriously in Face Off. Although there's some moments of Nicolas Cage I liked in Face Off, but it's just more the over the top stuff. I would give more of his performance in this than in Face Off. But when the film came out, it was a box office success. Made over 200 million worldwide and over 100 million domestically. Although it has a 54% Rotten Tomatoes, which I disagree with, and has a 6.9 IMDb, I give it much higher ratings on both. And I think it even won the Razzie for worst reckless discard for human life and public property. See, I think that was the same category that Volcano was nominated for as well, but this won it. The Razzies, well, whatever. But and it's a very fast-paced action film, and this is the unrated extended edition, which has just a few scenes that have been extended for a minute or so. I don't know. It's not much to it for an unrated extended edition. But yeah. But how this as everyone the story goes, as everyone a lot of people have seen this film, it's Nicolas Cage plays Cameron Poe. He's a U.S. Army Ranger. He was with his wife. You know, he just got back from duty, and he's with his wife at a bar, and these guys give him trouble, and it's raining, and he was defending his wife, and he killed a guy. You know, did like this, you know, through put his nose to the guy's brain. Which obviously reminds whenever I move I saw that instantly reminds me like from the Bruce Willis did to Kim Coates in The Last Boy Scout. You know, you touch me again, I'll kill you. He did it again. 2 for 2. Got 2 for 2. Boom. That instantly reminds me of that. So, but yeah, he did that, and he killed the guy, and now he's in court, which his lawyer was like is terrible at doing his job because he told him it's like if you plead guilty, you get like a year, but then obviously that didn't happen. He gets like more years added to that. So I would fired his lawyer and just I would fire my lawyer and I'll defend myself. I plead myself not guilty. But yeah, so he spends his time in prison, and he's like writing letters to his wife. And when the day comes, he's on his parole. He's gonna meet his daughter for the first time, and he's going home and meets his buddies with Mykelti Williams, Bubba from Forrest Gump and Species 2, the Final Destination, the fourth one. But even which I liked him in the Purge election year. But I like Mykelti Williams. And he also Free Willy as well. And he that's his friend. He's going with him on this plane, the Jailbird, which is John Malkovich says welcome to Con Air. And all these like the worst of the prisoners. John Malkovich as Cyrus the Virus. Big Rhames as Diamond Dog. Danny Trejo as a Johnny 23 because he has like a tattoo on his forearm, like hearts, like for every woman he raped. Comedian Dave Chappelle as Pinball. There's one guy, I know I've seen him in other stuff though. He plays Billy Bedlam, Nick Chinlund. I know I've seen him in other things, but he plays this another convict named Billy Bedlam. And as they're up in the air, the prisoners they get out. And there's one guy who is like an undercover DA agent that Colm Meaney, he's another agent who sent him in undercover and puts a gun, stick a gun in, and he's holding Dave Chappelle at one point, and John Malkovich is using one of the only female guard there, Rachel Sally Bishop, played by Rachel Ticotin, pronounce her name. I remember her from Total Recall, and also she was also in that film that I also reviewed, Turbulence. God. But I mostly remember from Total Recall. But she's the only female guard named Sally Bishop, and he's holding her as a shield, and which is funny that John Malkovich, is telling J. Chappelle because he's like, what was that line he said that that we used to call him like a crackhead, like Negro or something like that, and when Dave Chappelle's like, did you mean every word of that? And he said, yeah, I did. So yeah, and also even Dave Chappelle even improvised his own dialogue as well. But the lines in this is also pretty funny as well. Like John Malkovich is like, yeah, I said, yeah, I did. But also that undercover agent guy, he got himself killed. So now they have the control of the plane, and John Cusack, he's a U.S. Marshal named Vince Larkin, which that's his plane that he had. That was his plane that was taken. Colm Meaney, which I like the fun back and forth that John Cusack has with Colm Meaney, and which found that his agent was killed, and the funny with Colm Meaney is like, it's like, we telling John Malkovich, we better start contemplating, because this situation needs to get unfucked right now. And then when John Cusack's talking with John Malkovich over the phone, or the radio, and it's like, he's asking him, he's like, where are you going with my plane, Cyrus? We're going to Disneyland. You're lying, Cyrus. So are you. Oh, nothing really matters, like the guard, the agent lost his bladder on the airplane. John Malkovich, he's such a memorable villain with so many fun lines. I love John Malkovich. He's a great actor from In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood and other movies. Um, so, and there was even the one point where they find out when John Cusack files out went in John Malkovich's cell, like there's drawings of a plane, and, blueprints or whatever. And when he's about to leave, some idiot guards, open this box that's due to open. Opens and it's a little bomb. They explode, and there's one piece of metal hits a wall, almost hitting John Cusack. And when the plane it goes to Carson City for another transport, for more prison transports, you use some of the guards as and other prisoners, some of these to replace some of these other prisoners that was killed, and Cameron Poe, Nicolas Cage, he has a chance to get off the plane, but he doesn't do it because his friend Michael T. Williams, which is he's a diabetic because he has the little drug things though, but they broke all the needles, so he needs a syringe, and within this period of time he's gonna die because he needs his medicine. So he stays on the plane for him, and also because for the hostages as well, whoever the hostages that's on the plane. And when the prisoner or the other prisoners arrive, one other prisoner who's gonna fly the plane named Swamp Thing, played by MC Gainey, which I just talked about in my review for Breakdown. He was the character Earl when Kurt Russell beats the shit out of him, in the truck. So yeah, his character's name was Swamp Thing. He's the one who's gonna fly the plane. One other guy, who's who acts like he's a girl, cross dresser or whatever. And some other and then some other prisoners. One called Garland Green, played by Steve Buscemi, who's this serial killer, and that's not how I see Steve Buscemi. And one part where he has where John Malkovich tells Ving Rhames to take his mask off, and he's love your work. And I can see that Ving Rhames is he's a little bit scared to take when he's taking the guy's mask off. He's a little scared of him because he's not sure what this guy's capable of. But when they get found out that they're not guards, John Malkovich shoots one guy as the police arrive, and they get up in the air. Well, Dave Chappelle, there's a tracker on the plane. He switches to put on this other plane, and as the plane is taking off, he's outside of a window where there's one prisoner because he set fire to, to make distraction for the prisoners to escape, and the guy's all bandaged up, and he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry," and he's flipping the guy off, and he gets caught under the wheel of the plane. That's where they can't fully losing power. It's slowing them down because the wheel's not fully in. Where Ving Rhames and Nicolas Cage, they go down. They see him, he's stuck like this on the wheel. So, so when they go down there, Nicolas Cage, he writes a message to Vince Larkin, and they shows Dave Chappelle out of the plane, and Ving Rhames "Bye, pinball," and just Dave Chappelle's body just drops out of the sky, and it lands in this couple's car, which actually the guy, this older guy who's driving the car, whose car gets smashed, is played by Don S. Davis. This is a guy my brother knows because he watches Stargate SG-1. He's the general who's in charge of the Stargate, the base, wherever it is. Yeah, it's Don S. Davis. My brother knows him. He likes him. Too bad he's now passed away though. Yeah, but Dave Chappelle's body falls in that guy's car and gets his car smashed. What was the other guy, Billy Bellum, he goes down there and goes through Nicolas Cage's things and knows that the guy is playing him. He's like, "You've been playing us all along. you're a free man. And a lot of people make fun of Nicolas Cage in this film. For one, his accent, kind of like a bit of a southern accent. Put the bunny back in the box. Especially for the dialogue of putting the bunny back in the box. I mean, to me it's a memorable line. I don't see how it's that a line of dialogue that's make fun of. I don't see how. And he fights Billy Bentham, and he gets impaled by this pipe, and he goes, "Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?" It's just funny and memorable at the same time. And also this film has some over the top stuff, but it's how like the '90s action films were. Speed, it wasn't that over the top, but it has some good, but it was good action though, and with a memorable villain as well. But this has some even some of the explosions and all that stuff. It's how a '90s action film should have been, and I can deal with that though because it's a '90s action film. That's how it was back then. Nowadays, it's just, and plus there's a lot of practical explosions and fire stuff like that, and good stunt work. And nowadays it's just like CGI explosions, and don't even try to do anything with real practical fires and all stuff if there is. But still. And that's why at the back here it says it's explosive, pumped up action, and even Gene Siskel and Rodrigo call it high energy action right here. I agree with all that stuff. That's how an action film this stuff should have been. And so, John Cusack gets a message and tells Colm to turn around. There's another place they're going to. Of course, Colm, he does not listen because he's the asshole agent. But so John Cusack takes his car, his fast car, and goes to Lerner Airfield. That's where they're going to be landing at. And when they get there, there's this one guy who was also flying an airplane that was gonna collide with them, so he jumps out, and when he gets there, it's like, hey, and then you see the president, he goes and runs away in the other direction. It's like John Malkovich is like, hope he likes sand. and they're supposed to meet this place because John Malkovich supposed to have this one guy who's also a prisoner that's on the plane, who says he has transportation for another plane to him to get out, but the guy is lying, so because he's in it for himself. And when Nicolas Cage goes into this back area where the other guy's men are, and another good line where Nicolas Cage's like, you shoot that thing, 20 pissed off prisoners are going to hear that. And the guy puts like a silencer for the gun, and Nicolas Cage's like, hooray for the sounds of fucking silence. And John Malkovich, he gets there ahead of him, and they beat the guys up. Nicolas Cage beats the guys up, and tells him, that I got your message, and he's like, well, there are two. And Nicolas Cage is like, well, there's two guys I trust. One of them's me, and the other ain't you. But he tells that he spoke with his wife and his little girl, and he's like, what are you gonna do? And Nicolas Cage goes, what do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna save the fucking day. Oh man. Just many memorable lines in this movie. Makes such an action like this film like this a classic, and just so, but then there's going to be reinforcements on the way. But before that, though, the guy gets on his own, who's in for himself, gets on the plane. But John Cusack gets his crane and messes up the plane, and lands where the gas pumps are, and the guy says "sigh," and John Malkovich goes "Anara," throws a cigarette, lights on fire, kills the guy, explosions. And there's a really good stunt work where Nicolas Cage, he's in this little diner and it's going to be exploding, and he starts running in slow mo, but he jumps out through this glass panel in the door, and it's exploding behind him. It's really good stunt work. And there's this old guy that's hiding underneath the car. It's like, I'm not going to kill you, old timer. Listen, I need a syringe. I was like, oh, drugs will end you, son. Is there a first aid kit around? Well, there might be one over in the fire truck in the boneyard. Okay. You stay here and don't get killed. I was like, it's easy for you to say. You ain't gotta take a piss. Um... So, and then John Malkovich comes with his plan. I like how he's these little setups with these cans and little things like, this is the plane, this is the hangar, and this is us. And this one prisoner goes, what's this? And John goes, that's a rock. So they set up these propane tanks, and they take out the first car and they take out the last car when the reinforcements that get there. And then John Cusack high wires this bulldozer, as for protection for the guys, and also one thing I enjoy about the film is the music of this film. The score by Mark Mancina and Trevor Rabin, because I think that Mark Mancina that he was working on the score halfway, but he left because he was working on for Speed 2. And so Trevor Rabin had to come in and help finish the score for him, so that's why they're both names are on here. But I love the score in this film. The score in this film is just really... This is one of the best scores that I've heard in an action film. One of them. It's definitely one of my favorite scores in an action film, without a doubt. And because, when Nicolas Cage's like, well, baby-o, it's not my exactly high ties and yachts out here. Let's do this, and then the music just goes down, down, down. Just love this. Love the score. And Danny Trejo is Johnny 23. He was gonna rape Sally Bishop, and Mykelti Williams, even though in his condition, he was like, "I'm gonna bust you ass." And he's on the floor. He's trying to get up, but he can't. But Nicolas Cage, he beats him. He's like, "Don't treat women like that." And even he ties the rope to the plane. And just a lot of explosions and action. I enjoy the action sequence. And even with Steve Buscemi, Buscemi, I thought I called Buscemi. He meets with because he's talking with this little girl. And he's asking, like, are you sick? Why do you ask? You look sick. I am sick. Do you take medicine? There is no medicine for what I have. Because because he was talking with Nicolas Cage earlier, because how he said there was this girl that he drove down a couple of states wearing her as a hat. And he was like, it's my daughter's birthday, so please. But I just like that little thing how what he was saying that he's like, there is no medicine for what I have, and then girl's like, you want to sing? He's got the whole world in his hands, and then you wonder what he did to the girl, because you say they're not at the table, but when they leave, the girl is perfectly fine. So I'm still not exactly sure what he did with the girl. Did he do something? I don't know, but and then they shoot the reinforcements. They kill a couple of prisoners, including one of the guy that Dave Chappelle set him on fire. Then when they get back on the plane, they're tied up. They shoot at it to the hook that had with the rope that had the hook on it. So it hooks onto Colm Meaney's car. And as the plane takes off, it takes the car with them. And Nicolas Cage is like, well, on any day that might seem strange. And then the car just goes to the tower and falls and just gets demolished. And Colm Meaney, because he has a license plate that says ass kicker, and it's like to John Cusack, like, when this is over, so are you little prick. And when the plane is taken off, they can still see the guy, the pilot, he's still running through the desert. And then they're listening to Leonard Skinner on the radio, and Sweet Home Alabama. That's one memorable song that's in the film. Probably anybody would think of Con Air is Sweet Home Alabama. And then John Malkovich figures out who's behind all this, who did all this to try to sabotage us. But then Mykelti Williams as Baby-O, he takes the blame for it and gets himself shot. Um, and then John Cusack and Colm ride in some helicopters, and Colm does not listen to John Cusack, fire! And then he's like, no, that's my plane, cease fire! And then when Mykelti Williams it's like he's like there is no God, and Nicolas Cage, he's like, what are you doing? I'm going to show you God does exist, and the music once again. I just love that score. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite action movie scores. And he hits this one guy, punches him, gives him a good elbow, and one other guy, which I actually the guy who takes a gun and shoots Nicolas Cage in the arm, which he keeps on going. That one guy, convict, I saw him previously. He was in the Rock. He was one of the bad Marines that Sean Connery takes this chains and strangles the guy. I don't know the guy's name though, but I just know I knew that I saw a guy in the Rock as one of the Marines. But yeah, he takes a gun, shoots Nicolas Cage in the arm, and Nicolas Cage doesn't give a crap. He keeps on going, punches him, and then with the guy who in drag, who's like a woman, I liked how that Nicolas Cage doesn't punch him except just bitch slaps him, and then John Malkovich, because the gates are closed, and he's like, "Whoa!" And then Sally Bishop like, "Cyrus, what?" Hits him, knocks him out, and which Colm Meaney wants to shoot down the plane with a missile, but he tells the guy to hold fire. And then they're at Las Vegas, and since they have no zero fuel, they drop in too fast, so they land down on the strip. And another good sequence where they're on the strip and just crash into things, and then John Malkovich holds him like this at gunpoint. He's like, before I kill you, Poe, the last thing that little Casey Poe ever gets to smell will be my stinking breath. And then when the plane drives into this I think a hotel or something, then the one of the plane propellers, it just comes off and just comes around and slices through the plane. It separates John Malkovich and Nicolas Cage in between them. Just explosions and sparks, and this is how I just love it. That's why I just love growing up. I just love that all TV. It's always like the second half of the film. I kind of ironically is what I watched the most growing up as a kid on TV. It's always like an ironic thing though, because whenever I saw it on TV, it was always like the second half. And I just love it. That's why I love the film growing up. It's just because the second half was just so fun and exciting. And I'll say adrenaline pumping. It's pump up action, like Rex says here on the back, and explosive. This was an action film that I loved, and which I loved watching during growing up. And so some of the rest of the comics get arrested. Like Danny Trejo, he dies because he was handcuffed like this, and when the paramedics take him, you can see that his arms are still dangling from the handcuffs. So he gets his arms popped off, I guess. But John Malkovich, Ving Rhames, and MC Gainey, Cyrus, Diamond Dog, and Swamp Thing, they escape. They hijack a fire truck, and John Cusack and Nicolas Cage, they got on motorcycles and chases after them. And once again, great score by Mark Mancina and Trevor Rabin. And there was even a funny one where some two other cops on motorcycles, they see them, one of them drops a donut. And Nicolas Cage, he sets his motorcycle high speed to grab onto the ladder of the fire truck, and it rams into Ving Rhames, and which explodes and kills him. And just this is always one cringing moment where to me, it's still just this thing when you see it and even think about it, just like, oh man, ugh. when John Malkovich has one of those fire pokers, tries to poke at Nicolas Cage, but he breaks it, snaps it in half, and then just Nicolas Cage goes and stabs it right through John Malkovich's ankle. It's like, oh man, just imagine that, how hugely that just badly hurts, just how the way he screams, and just, I can't even imagine, just because it goes right through his freaking ankle. Ugh. There's always, if I ever like any injury I see on the film like that, that's one of the moments I find really do. One of the moments I find really cringing inducing, because just imagine the pain just going right through your freaking ankle like that. Just ugh. But John Cusack gets the fire hose, and he sprays the water where MC Gainey, he's driving and filling up the inside of it, and Nicolas Cage punching John Malkovich, handcuffs him to the ladder. You ain't getting near my daughter. Buckle up. And raises the ladder, and there's like this walkway through the street, and John Malkovich slams into it. He falls. He even falls into some electrical wires and goes on this conveyor belt. And as for Nicolas Cage, the fire truck goes right through this bank truck, and all this money is flying around. He tries to jump into the fire explosion behind him. Once again, good stunt work. As for John Malkovich, he gets his head crushed by this rock crusher. And as for the other convict, MC Gainey Swamp Thing, it shows like the water as he was driving, the water filled up from John Cusack, but he crashes right through the windshield. But when next time we see him, he's lying on the ground when Nicolas Cage and John Cusack saying to him, "Well, Vince Larkin, that was now 3 men I trust." And you can see the guy lying on the ground. He's like moving a little bit though, so he's still alive. But then John Cusack's talking with Colm Meaney about saying he apologized about the car, and guess Colm Meaney, kind of forget, was like, "I was bored of that car." And Nicolas Cage meeting with his wife, played by Monica Potter, which she was also in Saw and Along Came a Spider. And seeing his daughter, and she's a little bit shy, but she gives her the little bunny that he had, which is funny because the bunny was wet because it was about to fall into the gutter. When he grabs it, it was wet, but he gets it to the daughter, it's like totally dry. That's one easy thing I noticed. But and then the song "How Do I Live" is playing, which I like that. I forgot who sang the first version of "How Do I Live." Was it Celine Dion who sang the first version? I forget though. But this different version, "How Do I Live," I like. It fitted the ending. It fitted the ending of the film, and I think it was also playing at the beginning of the film as well. But how do I live? And they all get a group hug, and I love how the film ends which it always still makes me smile to this day still, because the craps table, new shooter, ladies and gentlemen. Does he feel lucky, or does he? When Leonard Skinner's playing, Steve Buscemi, he's the only convict that escaped. And it makes me smile when it sees them. That he's like, yes, he does. But be playing craps and Leonard Skinner's playing. It always makes me smile because I'm thinking every time I see that how that ends with Steve Buscemi, is like, yeah, he's the only one that escaped, and he's playing craps. And then I like how it ends with all the cast showing the footage from the cast members from the movie, little clips where they're all smiling. I never even noticed until like a while ago when they're all smiling. I never even noticed when they were all showing the montages of all the characters from the movie. I don't know how I could have missed that, because they showed because they're all smiling and all that. I was like, how did I miss that? They're all smiling. I didn't even notice that. I guess I was too busy having fun watching the film. I guess I was blinded by it. But yeah, so then with Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama, I love this film to death. One of my all-time favorite action films. I just love this film. It's definitely worth deserving for a 20th anniversary movie review. today, 20 years later, still a fun, kick-ass action film, and it's definitely worth doing a reviewing on my birthday as well because it was released today. Definitely a well-deserved 20th anniversary movie review. It's just fun, entertaining. It's funny as well. Memorable lines of dialogue, memorable moments, great cast, great score as well. Great directed by Simon West. Still the guy's best film. It's just sad when you look at this film and then you look at Expendables 2. I mean, it's like night and day. I mean, I know people like Expendables 2 though, but I mean, especially when it's doing with the humor. That film, Expendables 2, was too much of a joke, especially with Dolph Lundgren. He became the butt of jokes. Dolph Lundgren, he's just so underappreciated today. He does all these direct-to-video films, and just some of the films just Expendables 2 just bugged the hell out of me. Well, Expendables 3 is even worse, but still. But dealing with the humor, Simon West. I mean, what? This is mind-boggling that when you watch Expendables 2, it's the same guy who directed Con Air. And I don't know what to think about the second Blob remake. There's no release date of it yet, but I'm so dreading that second remake of the Blob. I'm so dreading it. I just know it's gonna be CGI Blob, even a CGI death. God, I'm just dreading that. Simon West. But but if I want to remember Simon West, I'll remember his best film, his first film as well. Nicolas Cage, John Malkovich, John Cusack, great performances. And I think if this looking up on the trivia, John Cusack, he does not like this film. He says he hated it so much that he refused to be interviewed about it. John Cusack, I mean, I know it's his opinion to hate on one of his own films, though, but when I watched this film, I was like, John Cusack, to me, you did great in the film. I don't see how you can hate this film. I don't see it though, but he sees it because he hates it. But I don't see how. I think he did a great job in the film because I enjoy him as an actor. I think he just did great. It's my favorite. It's actually my favorite film starring of him because I grew up with the film. Watched basically the first film I saw of John Cusack. Basically, Nicolas Cage, memorable as Cameron Poe, memorable action hero. John Malkovich, memorable villain, fun lines, great moments. The film is supposed to be is funny though, but they don't do it too over the top on the humor. The action, it's a little bit over the top on stuff though, but great explosions, great action sequences. It's a great Jerry Bruckheimer film. From Bad Boys 1 and 2, The Rock, Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. 3, forget about it, but I'm counting 1 and 2. But Jerry Bruckheimer, I just great. The rest of the cast: Steve Buscemi, Big Rhames, Colm, Meaney, Mykelti Williamson, Rachel Ticotin as the female guard, Dave Chappelle, MC Gainey, Danny Trejo, Monica Potter. And even one I forgot to mention where they're dancing to Sweet Home Alabama, and Steve Buscemi goes like, "Define irony: a bunch of idiots dancing to a song made famous by a band that died in a plane crash." Yeah. And there isn't much for feet. I don't think there is features in here, but it doesn't say on the back. But yeah, just one more I can say about Con Air. I just love this film. Great cast. Oh, that's another one. Crimson Tide. That's another Jerry Bruckheimer film I enjoy. And also, the National Treasure films as well. But yeah, 20th anniversary movie review and also my birthday review. So yeah, happy birthday to me. definitely worth a reviewing film an action film that I absolutely love to death. This is why I say a childhood action film that I just grew up watching so many times on TV, especially when it's mostly the most. It was the second half of the film, which is I find ironic. But yeah, I love this film. More I can say. Yeah, as I explained, cast, action, score. I don't think there's honestly if I'm one problem with the film. Dialogue, humor. It's an action classic. Definitely an action classic. Over the years, it has gained has been a cult following, but I still call it an action classic. One of the most memorable, especially from the '90s. It's my favorite film, starring all three of these guys here. So yeah. So that's my 20th anniversary / birthday review of Con Air. Definitely 2 thumbs up. And I think even also Roger Ebert, yeah, he did a review and he gave this film 3 stars. Good for him. May he rest in peace. And just, yeah. I don't know how prolong this. It's 45 minutes in. But hey, it was 45 minutes in. It was 46 technically. But that's definitely worth reviewing for this film that I absolutely love to death. And definitely worth doing on my birthday. So yeah, that's my birthday 20th anniversary movie of Con Air. And if anyone's not seen this film, I highly advise to check it out. Highly, if anyone's not seen this film. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned on the next movie review. And once again, happy birthday to me. But yeah, another day for another year. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned on the next movie review. Later.